So yeah, I'll have this stuff up later, but I'm going to dive into my first screen here. Okay. So I'll do my best to summarize this in about 7 minutes, but really I'd love to talk to you for hours about this stuff because it is definitely a passion. So Sam, you might need to come up and grab me and yank me off the stage if I go too long, all right? All right. So I brought here a artillery casing from Vietnam that my grandfather brought home. And I was 5 years old when he died, so I never really got to talk to him about his experiences over there. I just more kind of learned through my mom about some of, what he also brought home with the abuse towards her, and some of the other problems in the family. And so I've always wondered, what he was carrying on his heart that I never learned about. My father, who was a Marine, raised by a Marine grandmother, a Marine mother of his, my grandmother, and a Navy mother, a Navy father, none of which I've ever met, but he abandoned my mother and I when I was born, and so I've always also wondered, what wounds he carried on his heart that shaped how he showed up in relationships as well. I returned from Afghanistan at the age of 21, went back to my anthropology degree at UNLV in Las Vegas, where there was just a shooting last week, or this week. Coming back in the middle of my bachelor's degree, I had a whole new nervous system while I was sitting there in class after being ambushed as a military police officer doing convoy security, and on top of navigating really big questions of what the hell did I just do over there? What was I a part of? And how does it align or not align with my moral foundation? What I would later come to find is a term called soul wound or moral injury. And on top of feelings of shame and guilt and anxiety and fear, you also have this really kind of this loss of trust within yourself and with other people. So it can make it really hard with integrating into careers as well as bringing that into relationships. So I said, I'm done with the Army. I finished my 7 years. I finished my bachelor's degree, and I went off to travel through Europe and Southeast Asia. And I went backpacking with two friends of mine. And mind you, I was an MP. I was the kid who listened to DARE. I didn't do a single substance besides alcohol. And now I'm 24, and I'm in Amsterdam. And I'm on a train heading out to DEF CON 1, which is a hardstyle rave music festival. And there's this awesome couple on the train, and they start talking, and they've got some MDMA, which is ecstasy, for those of you who don't know, also known as Molly. And I've been hearing about it, and I'm like, all right, here we go. And I walk into that, I took it on the train, and I walk into that music festival, and it hits right when I'm coming in. There's this beautiful lake and these beautiful trees, and I just felt like I could be present in my body, and I could just feel the music. And I felt that I could trust people, and I felt just so much love and compassion for myself and others. And I was like, holy shit, what is going on here? How do I learn more about this? And how do I learn how to reach this state while sober? So it really planted a seed. Then I went off to Asia, many different countries, but stopped in Vietnam. And while in Ho Chi Minh, I went to the Vietnam War Museum and was really... that started to kind of unravel some insights in seeing the Vietnamese narrative of our involvement there and seeing all these U.S. veterans who had written these letters talking about how sorry they were and how much they regret their involvement over there. And it really just started to kind of open me up to like, wow, is this what Afghanistan and Iraq are going to be? Is this the same thing? So come back from 6 months of backpacking, and I'm with a couple of veteran buddies of mine, and they invite me camping, and then I was clueless, and they were like, yeah, we've got some mushrooms, and I'm like, oh, I've never had it. Can I have a mushroom? And my buddy Ross is like, oh, you want a single mushroom? Yeah, here you go. Here's a handful. And I blasted off, went into the deepest shadow realm, into some dark hell places, and really saw and looked at the ways in which I had been conditioned and the ways in which fear and judgment was holding me back in my life and my relationships. And really planted another seed of what I needed to look at and what I needed to continue to pursue in healing So that's why I'm really excited to be here today to talk to you about my hopes for Evolving Lovers Psychedelic Retreats. While this generation does have 23 vets who kill themselves each day or more, this is also the generation who is spearheading change for this psychedelic renaissance that is going on in the West. While many of you who are here may know that these medicines have been used for hundreds, if not thousands of years all across the world, but they are the ones who are spearheading the change in Congress to get people to open their eyes and look at the research. These are many of the friends and people who I look up to who've inspired me and who have amazing organizations. These are all veterans and all in the psychedelic community. I'm happy to talk more about them later. I personally see and understand this suicide epidemic not as just a problem of the individual, but rather as a collective wake-up call for us as a nation to really think about what is the old way of being that we need to shed as a culture, so that we don't continue to repeat these skeletons in our closet of all these wars over and over and over. As awesome as these organizations are, Heroic Hearts Projects, The Mission Within, none of them focus specifically on healing relationships. And a big part of why veteran suicide is so rampant is because of struggles within relationships. So I think that's where we need to really target and think about how do we heal the whole family or the whole relationship when they come home. Too many things, too many hands. Need to be like an octopus. All right. So I've got a vision here. It's still very much a vision in process, and when you're trying to run a business that the federal government isn't even really on board with yet, it's a lot to figure out. So I definitely need help with that. But I've got this vision cooking around bringing individuals, couples, and one day even families together into groups so that way they can use these therapy boosters, aka psychedelics, to help them with the hardest conversations, to help them learn how to better have conflict resolution in addition to their own individual healing. MDMA was recently labeled as a breakthrough therapy for PTSD. They just finished their phase 3 study, and 70% of veterans who have chronic PTSD who went through this treatment, 12 total sessions, but 3 with medicine, showed 70% were no longer diagnosable with PTSD. They had such a significant loss. So this is not just another medication to numb symptoms and to dull symptoms. This is transformative healing. Psilocybin has also been a breakthrough for depression, end-of-life anxiety, and so much more. But it also is really profound for helping us to see and look at the conditioning we have, the beliefs that are no longer serving us, and to really create much more of a flexible mind. And so both of these medicines, I think, have a lot of potential for helping relationships. There's currently a study going on at the San Diego VA for MDMA, and there was one in Canada a couple of years ago. But this is mainly what it was used for before it was made illegal in 1986, was for couples therapy. The last thing I want to say is when we can do this in a group, this is going to be really expensive because psychedelic therapists who are really fully certified and trained are rare. There's not a whole lot of us. And there's also, when you bring people together into a group, it's going to help lower the cost, but also increase effectiveness of the container because we're all going to be able to learn from and with one another's journey, and even different couples, all sharing about how they're healing is all going to create this community healing container. So it's kind of ironic because I deployed to Afghanistan to influence the hearts and minds of the people with grenades and rifles and imperialism. But now I'm truly living that mission with my full heart, mind, and soul, and these heart and mind expanding psychedelics. It also helps that I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm an ASEX certified sex therapist, a MAPS MDMA trained therapist, and I also worked at Naropa this year in their psychedelic certificate program. I can't speak highly enough about that program if you're interested in learning more. And I also, last summer, had the chance to work with Huts for Vets, and I've got brochures for these organizations, but they do wilderness retreats outside of Aspen, men, women, co-ed, nature-based work. It's amazing. And in my private practice where I serve individuals and couples in my community, I also have a contract with first responder trauma counselors where I serve a lot of first responders, many of which are former vets. And in addition to being a father with a blended family of 5 children, our 4-year-old's sick at home right now with grandma, but my wife and I, Joy, I'm going to introduce her in a second, is we're looking to pivot into this work somehow in terms of doing these retreats together. Not only for our family, but also for a better, safer community. Nobody else in my life has inspired me to evolve in love as much as that woman over there, Miss Joy. So thank you for putting up with all of me and my parts and my craziness, and for bringing so much love and compassion and support, as well as like shaking my spiritual world up to help me find what fits for me. In addition, she is finishing 20 years at the CSU, Colorado State University Police Department, and so she's pivoting into her true passions, her true magic, her true gifts, which are, she is a badass yoga teacher. I can't tell you how many people have come up and said, your yoga classes are like a psychedelic trip just in a class. So the way she weaves magic from her astrology training to her Reiki training, it is. She's the longest wait list at YogaPod by far, and I'm so honored to work with her in this way. So if you don't know, or you're still just kind of learning about psychedelics, or you haven't been tracking this renaissance going on in the West, How to Change Your Mind on Netflix is a really great place to start, a little mini docuseries. But for the sake of time, I'm going to just move on. For those of you who like numbers, these are, who knows, we're just predicting things, but I've got the sites for it, but it depends on how we all vote and how we move with legalizing these things worldwide. But the global psychedelic market compound annual growth rate is currently set at 14.9%, or another way to think about that is 4.2 billion in 2022 and up to 8.3 billion globally by 2027. And for those of you who don't know, Australia just legalized MDMA and psilocybin for therapy this year. So we are hoping, I don't know if I said this already, but we're hoping for MDMA to be legal by Q3 of next year. Cross our fingers. And as you all know, here in Colorado, we passed the Natural Medicine Health Act. We're still waiting for the Colorado Department of Regulatory Agencies to tell us how that's all going to work in terms of these future treatment facilities. So more regulations and rules to come. So I just want to invite you to close with me. And I want to do that in a way, we're going to take 2 breaths. And on the second breath, we're all going to do a collective humming together, okay, on the exhale. So I'll invite you to close your eyes or stare gently at a spot in front of you. And then we'll maybe invite you, if you'd like, to place a hand on your belly and a hand on your heart. We'll take 1 big breath in. Open mouth exhale. Second breath in. And hum. Thank you so much for joining me in that. I needed that, so I just selfishly wanted you all to join me in that. Yeah, I would love to talk with you if you have any vision or any goals to support this work, or if you have any ideas of who I can work with and to bring this to light. It needs to happen yesterday, but it's happening as fast as it will. And yeah, would love to talk to you over at my booth over here. Thank you so much.
Look, Mom. I made that.